Breaking this afternoon, an investigation is underway after radioactive material was illegally dumped in an Estill County landfill. We have team coverage, including more on the risk to the public.
Police now have a man behind bars for the Christmas Eve hit-and-run death of a Wolf County man.
A woman talks to us about how she fought off an intruder after waking up to find him in her home.
WKYT News starts now with breaking news.
Good afternoon. In just the last few hours, we have learned about radioactive waste dumped illegally in a central Kentucky landfill. The waste was dumped in a landfill off Kentucky 89 in Estill County. It's across from the high school and the middle school.
The state is now investigating why it was dumped there and the potential consequences. We have team coverage on this breaking story. WKYT's Garrett Weimer is in Estill County, but we start with Monique Blair, who just talked with state leaders in Frankfort. Monique?
Well, Sam and Amber, earlier this month, a contractor tipped off the state that there may have been radioactive material illegally dumped into the Blue Ridge landfill in Estill County. Now, after doing some investigating, the Division of Waste Management found that 1,600 to 1,800 tons of radioactive material was buried at the landfill sometime between July and November of last year. The radioactive material came from a company in West Virginia, but a West Liberty company arranged for the waste to be buried in Estill County. Now, this is illegal for two reasons. One, Kentucky limits states where radioactive waste can come from. West Virginia is not one of those places. Plus, the waste buried was more than 300 times the legal limit for radioactivity to be buried at a solid waste landfill. So the big question becomes, is the community at risk?
I personally don't have any information right now that would lead me to believe there's an imminent threat or danger from this material being placed in the landfill. At the time at which the material was being deposited, I can't answer that question. As best I understand it, they've been operating since November. A landfill receives waste daily, adds it to the working face, adds daily cover. So this material is at some depth now below the surface.
Now, the Division of Waste Management tells us at this time they are not sure if the Blue Ridge landfill knew about this illegal dumping, but nonetheless, they still will be cited. Reporting live in Frankfort, Monique Blair, WKYT.
Monique, thank you. Now, leaders in Estill County tell us they just learned about the radioactive waste today, even though the state's been investigating since January.
The judge executive and the emergency management director went to the landfill this afternoon for answers. And our Garrett Weimer continues our team coverage now live from Irvin. Garrett?
Yeah, county leaders say this was startling news to them, too. They just heard of this afternoon, as you mentioned. I just met with the Estill County Emergency Management Director. He says that he and the county judge executive went out to the landfill earlier. Now, the judge executive says the landfill owner told them that he did accept waste from West Virginia, but says he didn't know he was not allowed to. He says the owner also told them that none of the paperwork they got indicated that material was nuclear waste. Now, both the judge executive and the emergency management director say they are upset that they are just now hearing about this, and they're working to get more information. The emergency management director told me that he's been assured by the state that this does not pose any sort of public health threat to the folks here in Estill County, but obviously still shocking news for them to hear about today, they say. Live in Estill County, Garrett Weimer, WKYT.
Thank you, Garrett. We'll continue to follow the story through the evening, and we've also learned that the state sent notices this week to other landfills in the state, warning them about accepting illegal radioactive material.
Police have made an arrest in a deadly Christmas Eve hit and run. Keith Branham faces several charges, including reckless homicide for the crash on Kentucky 191 in Wolf County. WKYT's Caitlin Sentner talked to the victim's family about the arrest.
It's been 2 months now since a man was walking on this stretch of roadway when he was hit by a driver who didn't stop. 32-year-old Jamie Robinson was walking on Kentucky 191 in Campton on Christmas Eve when police say he was hit by a driver. They're now saying that driver is Keith Branham. Branham was served an indictment at his home Wednesday for reckless homicide. leaving the scene and operating a vehicle without a license. He's behind bars 2 months after the hit-and-run accident, but Robinson's sister, Brenda Brown, says someone being behind bars for killing her brother doesn't bring closure or relief. She says it's been tough. She didn't have plans to see him for Christmas, but she says they talked just about every day.
He was a nice brother. He helped people if they wanted him, you know, to come and need him or something. He'd go and help them. He always come here and help us do things. He's a real nice boy.
Keith Branham remains behind bars at the Three Forks jail on $50,000 bond. In Wolf County, Caitlin Setner, WKYT.
State police say Branham told them he knew he hit something that day, but he didn't know exactly what.
A 77-year-old woman wasn't backing down when an intruder broke into her home overnight. Marietta Shields says she woke up to find a man in her living room on Marcellus Drive about 2:30 this morning. As WKYT's Michelle Chamberlain shows us, the intruder has been in her house before.
He opened that window and I got up and come in here and there he was.
This morning, 77-year-old Marietta Shields woke up to an intruder in her living room.
He kept saying he had a gun. He pushed me where I went in the bedroom and he pushing me, you know, and then him was fighting.
Marietta says the intruder then saw her purse, grabbed it, and ran.
He bruised here and here.
Unfortunately, Marietta wasn't able to get a good look at the intruder. She says his face was covered.
I hope he goes to jail.
Marietta says she believes it's the same person who broke into her home earlier this month on February 4th. She says she wasn't home that time, but the person did enter through a different window and took her purse. Lexington police say they're waiting to see surveillance footage from a speedway on New Circle Road. The speedway is about a half a mile from Marietta's home. Marietta says someone spent hundreds of dollars at that gas station earlier this month with her credit card.
Love to find out who in the heck is doing it myself.
In Lexington, Michelle Chamberlain, WKYT.
Police do not have a good description of the intruder, only that he was wearing a gray coat. Well, you might see a snowflake or two flying around tonight.
But the good news, we're getting another break from winter for the weekend. WKYT Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey's here now with a check of that forecast.
Yeah, guys, all part of that roller coaster ride we've been talking about for a few days now. Right now, we're down at the bottom, getting ready to climb up another hill, though, as we go into the weekend. We look outside Hamburg Pavilion in the distance, a lot of clouds out there, the occasional snowflake, 37 degrees, though. Here's what it feels like. That's what you should be dressing for an evening out on the town. 28 right now, Lexington, winds nowhere near as gusty as where we have been over the past few days. Currently 21 miles per hour. Still coming at us from the northwest. Most thermometers mid and upper 30s. Air to our north and west. Not that cold by February standards. And we're going to, again, moderate those numbers as we go into the weekend. A lot of the snows out there today have been very fine, melting on contact. It's what happens when temperatures are above freezing. If you're out as we go into the day tomorrow, those temperatures will be much, much better. 30s coming your way as we go into the heart of the afternoon. When I come back here in a few minutes, guys, we will walk you into that weekend and show you how the numbers really take off for your Saturday and Sunday.
8 people have died in storms from the Carolinas to New York. Powerful winds took down power lines, trees, and even flipped a semi in New York City. In Queens, the Coast Guard airlifted 7 crew members from a fishing boat that ran aground. The air rescue was necessary after a rescue boat flipped, forcing 5 other Coast Guard members inside to swim ashore. There were also reports of tornadoes in Virginia and North Carolina. Visitation for the chairman of the Fayette County School Board is underway. John Price died earlier this week following a 2-year battle with leukemia. His visitation lasts until 8 tonight at Millward Broadway. His funeral will be at 1:30 tomorrow afternoon at St. Peter Catholic Church.
The numbers are in from yesterday's mumps vaccine clinic at the University of Kentucky. There have been 3 confirmed cases of the mumps on campus. UK tells us about 15 people were vaccinated during yesterday's clinic. And if students miss the clinic, they can still make appointments to get the vaccine at University Health Services. A northeastern Kentucky school district will be out tomorrow because of the flu. Russell Independent in Greenup County canceled classes Wednesday and Thursday as well because so many people have been sick. The flu outbreak hit everyone from students to teachers and staff.
A lot of our students were ill at the primary school, which impacted teachers who had small children, so they were going to be out. Substitutes were needed to cover those absences, and they were becoming difficult to find. Bus drivers were also becoming ill.
Today, the state told us there are more than 400 cases of flu in Kentucky, and more than 200 of those are in a 5-county area, including Greenup County. We'll show you how nearby Rowan County is trying to keep the outbreak out of their community on WKYT News coming up at 5:30. Richmond police are telling us they need to fill more than a dozen jobs, the concern that has some officers leaving the department a little later.
NBA players are helping with a study that could answer questions about the hearts of all types of athletes, what researchers are looking at in better living.
To play on the floor at Rupp is special. To do it to bring awareness for a fellow firefighter makes it even more significant. WKYT goes to Chicago to talk with a Lexington fireman battling cancer. A fireman's fight, tonight at 6 on WKYT.
Monster Jam, this weekend. See world champions Gravedigger and Bounty Hunter, plus Backwards Bob, Iron Outlaw, Stinger, Instigator, Backdraft, and Midnight Rider. You have to see it live, so bring the whole family. Kids seats start at just $10. That's right, kids seats are just $10. Monster Jam, this weekend, Rupp Arena.
It's Furniture World Superstore's biggest tax refund sale ever. Now's a great time to redecorate your home because Furniture World stretches your tax refund with huge savings store-wide, plus 2 years interest-free. Now at Furniture World, use your tax refund to refurnish your living room or dining room, update your bedroom, sleep better on a comfortable new mattress. We're serious about saving you big money. Get huge tax refund savings, plus it's interest-free for 2 full years. So hurry in and save during our biggest tax refund sale ever. Now at all 5 Furniture World Superstore locations.
We have more flights to more of the places you want to go every single day. See for yourself. Visit us today.
What do these women have in common? They are the staff of Ageless Medical Weight Loss. They've lost a combined 1,300 pounds. The team at Ageless will understand your struggles and celebrate your victories. For a medically supervised, affordable weight loss solution, call Ageless today for a free consultation.
No matter what time it is or wherever you are, your Toyota dealers are always open at buyatoyota.com. Now, during the final days of Toyota's Anytime Anywhere event, get a great deal on the adventurous new 2016 RAV4, including the first ever RAV4 hybrid, with financing as low as 0% and leases from just $209 a month. So visit here and then come in here before it all ends February 29th. Toyota, let's go places.
They say life gets better the older you get, and time becomes more valuable. Time to spend with family, time to try new things, time to have fun. At Kroger, you can have your prescriptions filled while you shop, so it's easy to save money and time with your Kroger pharmacy. And you can get back to the things you love.
Be heart smart. Your Kroger pharmacist can help you understand your heart health numbers, your medications, and so much more. See your Kroger pharmacist today.
Stay connected to the news that matters to you. Follow WKYT on Twitter.
Now, your hour-by-hour forecast with Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey.
Cold day across the Bluegrass State. Those readings at this point yesterday were dropping quickly from west-east, and that shows up on the 24-hour temperature change map. Look at where we are now compared to 5 o'clock yesterday. Eastern Kentucky, we're pushing 20 degrees colder than we were at this same point yesterday. 6 degrees colder in Lexington. That cold air was already into western parts of the region. 37, popular number. Lexington, Richmond, down into Middlesboro and into much of eastern Kentucky as well. Winds, though, continue to gust up. What a windy couple of days we've had. Those gusts, though, today a far cry from the 40 and 50 miles per hour that we recorded yesterday, and even some areas pushing 40 a little earlier today. Right now 20 to 25 and slowly calming down heading into the overnight. It was kind of rough sleeping last night, wasn't it, with all the wind gusts out there. All right, Defender Radar Network, still a little snow shower action coming at us through tonight. Eastern Kentucky, there's a chance you coat a rooftop again. Those higher mountains in southeastern Kentucky can put down a light accumulation, and a flurry will hang tough into tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon, though, we roll our way into the weekend with skies becoming partly sunny, 35 to 40 across the region. Out on the town for your Friday evening, It's cold, but it's February. It's not real cold at 32 degrees, and from there, temperatures may actually come up a little bit into the day on Saturday. How about that hour-by-hour forecast now through the weekend? Notice a little bit of snow shower action continuing on that strong northwesterly wind. That'll hang tough into the first few hours of tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon, we break out into sun, 35 to 40. Not bad tomorrow night, and it gets a whole lot better for your Saturday. Let's get rid of the clouds and let's cue some 50-degree temperatures into parts of the area. High 40s to low 50s. I think that model is a little underdone with the temperatures for Saturday and Sunday. Sunday afternoon, this has 60 degrees. I'm going to go a few degrees warmer than that. I think we flirt with 65 before your Sunday is through. The drawback on that, gusty winds, big high pressure center not too far away from the Bahamas. Sounds pretty good right now, huh? Southwesterly flow, though, ahead of a cold front. A lot of winds and the mild temperatures. That front, by the way, gets into town on Monday. That'll be our next chance for a little shower or two. Bigger system comes into town Tuesday into Wednesday and has some similarities to the system that is just now exiting the area. 64, though, to put the wraps on the final weekend of February for your Sunday. Quick look outside at Lexington roadways right now, and we have a couple of accidents that continue on the east side of town. Officials there trying to clean it up, but a lot of red showing up there along New Circle Road. That first accident at Woodhill, and then just up the road at Eastland Parkway, guys. That is a slow go when you see red on your live drive traffic.
But nice to be near the end of the week, and weather looking pretty good for the most part.
It does, and tomorrow, you know, Friday, we love Fridays anyway, but knowing we've got 60 degrees coming this weekend,
bonus.
Little jump around in the step tomorrow.
Is that why you're jumping?
Yeah, well, it's one of the many reasons, I guess, right?
Okay.
The state Senate votes on whether to extend benefits to firefighters' families when they die of cancer. The details on the vote ahead at 5.
A sudden illness has left a UK doctoral student in need of a kidney. What he's doing to find a donor on WKYT News at 5:30.
Kentucky mornings start here. Breaking and overnight news, weather to plan your day, plus traffic you can take with you. Make WKYT This Morning part of your Kentucky morning. Weekdays from 4:30 to 7 on WKYT.
Sometimes you get in your mid-40s and you're working harder than ever in the gym, and sometimes it's not your fault. And that's where Body Shapes came in. I'm stronger, I'm faster, I've got more passion, more energy, and I'm happier than ever. Without hesitation, I tell anyone to go to Body Shapes.
Honda knows you expect a lot from your car. But we wanted to give you even more. So we gave the Civic, the best-selling car in its class, even more horsepower, more room than ever, and a stylish new exterior. Introducing the all-new Civic. Nothing compares to a Honda.
Philip Pratt, a proud grandfather, a loving and caring family man, a hard-working small business owner, someone who knows how to grow jobs and change the landscape in Frankfurt. Philip Pratt will hold government accountable responsibly, fight Obama's crippling government overreach on our agriculture economy, and preserve our Kentucky heritage in Owen and Scott County. On Tuesday, March 8th, vote Philip Pratt for state representative.
Enjoy 0% financing for 5 years and free TVs with your qualifying purchase at Sleep Outfitters. Get this Sealy Pillow Top Queen Set with gel foam on sale now for just $4.99 plus a free TV. Save up to 50% off Tempur-Pedic floor models. You heard right, up to half off Tempur-Pedic while supplies last. 0% financing for 5 years, free TVs, store-wide savings, and up to 50% off Tempur-Pedic floor models. Only at Sleep Outfitters.
This is what precision looks like, helping you see what's hard to see, thanks to Terrain Denali's Side Blind Zone Alert that uses radar to watch your blind spots. So it's true, Mom does have eyes in the back of her head. The new, meticulously crafted 2016 Terrain Denali from GMC. This is the precision of professional grade. Or current lessees switch to GMC and get this low-mileage lease on this Terrain SLE1 for around $199 per month.
Visit your Bluegrass GMC dealer today.
For the first time since I can remember and forever, I liked shopping because I liked how I looked in the clothes I tried on. So that's been really fun. The more you lose, the more you want to stick to it and do it, and that was my motivation.
Get weather plus traffic with a WKYT weather app. Have the Defender radar network in the palm of your hand while checking your driving conditions for your commute on the same screen. Weather plus traffic on the WKYT weather app. Keep up with the latest news on WKYT.com. Join the conversation on Twitter and become a part of the WKYT Facebook family.
Here's a look at the most viewed stories on our website right now. People want to know more about a man charged with trying to ignite propane tanks outside the Georgetown Walgreens. A vote to suspend 5 Paris police officers without pay, and Chris Bailey's forecast. You can find these stories and more on WKYT.com. A Central Kentucky Police Department is in need of more officers. The department in Richmond is operating with 14 fewer officers than usual after several left the department.
The issue, their pay and the lack of a system in place to address it. WKYT's Hillary Thornton talks to city leaders who say they're working on a solution. The story is new at 5.
Chief Larry Brock has been leading the Richmond Police Department for nearly a decade. It is a department authorized for 60 officers, currently working with 46.
Really challenging for us to staff our patrol shifts, much less any other specialized unit.
A challenge for a department that has been through a lot in recent months.
The death of Daniel Ellis it's been a very difficult time for all of us. It's had an impact, I think, on some of those that have left, and it's had an impact on the people that have stayed.
Losing more than a handful of officers after the death of Officer Ellis. However, Chief Brock says there are other factors sending the officers elsewhere. The main one, he says, being that there is not any type of pay ladder in place.
It's not so much the starting point. It's that there's no future point set out, no ending point that they can see. It's just after 3 years, we've kind of almost topped out.
The city's got 245 employees, and I promise you, pay is an issue to all of them.
Mayor Jim Barnes says he is aware of the issue. It is an issue frustrating to some community members, including David Gannon, who is president of the Ellis Coalition.
They don't do it for the pay. I understand that. I mean, they do it because they love what they do. But we as a community should take care of our officers.
You know, I'm sure the commission is more than receptive to sit and look at it and see what we can do.
One of those commissioners, Jason Morgan, waiting on a current pay scale report for departments throughout the state.
Once we get that, I'm going to present it to the commission, asking that we modify our pay structure.
While Mayor Barnes says it could take some time, he is committed to getting the force reloaded.
We have to. I mean, it's not a goal. It's a necessity.
In Richmond, Hillary Thornton, WKYT.
The commission recently approved compensation for officers who were not able to use vacation days due to the staffing issues.
The state Senate unanimously approved a bill to help the families of firefighters who die of cancer. The bill classifies cancer as a line-of-duty death and extends benefits to the firefighter's family. The bill moves on now to the House, where a similar measure passed last year. A bill to lessen the legal consequences of sexting among teenagers passed a Senate committee. Under this bill, teenagers under the age of 18 caught sending nude photos would no longer face a felony. A felony conviction can result in having to register as a sex offender. Instead, teenagers would face a fine for a first offense and a misdemeanor for subsequent offenses. A business owner is getting help recovering after last month's snowstorm. What the community is doing for him so he can rebuild on WKYT News at 5:30.
Details on what led up to a Toyota recall and how basketball players are helping researchers understand more about heart health. The story's next in Better Living.
Stay connected to the news that matters to you, like WKYT on Facebook.
It's the Ashley Home Store Leap Year Sale. A sale so huge it only happens once every 4 years. For 4 days only, take up to 29% off your entire purchase. Buy this reclining sofa. Get the matching recliner for 29% off. Ashley Home Store. This is home.
No matter what time it is or wherever you are, your Toyota dealers are always open at buyatoyota.com. Now during the final days of Toyota's Anytime Anywhere event, get a great deal on the adventurous new 2016 RAV4, including the first ever RAV4 hybrid with financing as low as 0% and leases from just $209 a month. So visit here and then come in here before it all ends February 29th. Toyota, let's go places.
Can't wait to try these wings.
I know. And apparently this spicy honey barbecue sauce is so good, it'll change your life.
Yeah?
Mom and Dad, can I borrow the car?
Our son's in a boy band?
We have a son?
Life-changing? Maybe. Indescribably good? Definitely. The boneless wings meal with spicy honey barbecue sauce, served with crinkle fries and a small drink. Zaxby's, indescribably good.
It's Furniture World Superstore's biggest tax refund sale ever. Now's a great time to redecorate your home because Furniture World stretches your tax refund with huge savings store-wide, plus 2 years interest-free. Now at Furniture World, use your tax refund to refurnish your living room or dining room, update your bedroom, sleep better on a comfortable new mattress. We're serious about saving you big money. Get huge tax refund savings, plus it's interest-free for 2 full years. So hurry in and save during our biggest tax refund sale ever. Now at all 5 Furniture World Superstore locations.
This is Monster Jam, and there's no holding back. See Gravedigger, Backwards Bob, and more. Monster Jam, brought to you by WKYT, the official tire of Monster Jam. Coming to Rupp Arena this weekend. Buy your tickets now at monsterjam.com.
That's the sound of Sirius XM, controlled by the largest touchscreen in its class. That's the sound of someone blowing past the last gas station for over 500 miles. That's the sound of 4 usually rowdy kids with headphones and their favorite movie. And together, these are the sounds of a well-executed automotive symphony.
Don't miss the leap year sale on now at Ashley Home Store. For 4 days only, purchase any premium mattress and get a second queen mattress for only $29. Or pay no interest for 4 years. Ends Monday. Ashley Home Store. This is home.
It is time now for Better Living, health, education, and consumer news that impacts your life. We're learning more about what led to the recall of nearly 3 million Toyotas. The company recalled RAV4s last week because the seat belts could be cut in a crash. Canadian investigators found the problem after 2 backseat passengers died in crashes where the people in front survived. Tests found the belts can come in contact with the metal seat cushion frame. Toyota will add plastic covers to the frame to prevent the problem. Basketball players have the highest rates of sudden cardiac death in the U.S. related to sports. As Omar Villafranca shows us, a new first-of-its-kind study could help doctors determine what's normal and abnormal for all athletes' hearts.
At 7'1", Isaiah Austin was built for basketball. After 2 standout years on the court for Baylor University, he was heading for the 2014 NBA draft.
I was playing some of the best basketball in my life.
But his dreams were about to change. League doctors ran tests including imaging of his heart. He had Marfan syndrome, a genetic condition that leaves part of the aorta abnormally large and puts patients at risk of sudden cardiac death.
You know, just accepting it, accepting that life is and health is more important than a game.
Researchers at Columbia University Medical Center, in collaboration with the NBA, have released a new study that for the first time examines the hearts of NBA players.
We've provided a frame of reference that all physicians can use to help to decide what is normal and what's abnormal.
Researchers analyzed the echocardiograms of more than 500 NBA players. They found while the heart increased proportionally with their size, the aortic root, which connects to the body's main blood vessel, was not proportional.
Aortic root diameters actually reached a plateau. So no matter how big you get, there was a certain limit.
Isaiah won't be able to play in the NBA.
Man, I miss it every day. You know, it's my first love.
He pours his competitive spirit into a new sport.
You golf?
I do, yeah.
How are you?
I'm actually pretty good.
And he uses his foundation to educate other athletes. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Waco, Texas.
Researchers say their findings can be applied to all sports that involve tall athletes, including volleyball and track and field. For more health, education, and consumer news, go to WKYT.com and click on Better Living. Now, here's what's coming up at 5:30.